Good morning as you're joining us for the third Board of Governors exam review session. Thank you for being here on Saturday, March 20th. We appreciate it. We'll get started in just a few moments. Reminder that we'll have you on mute while we move through the presentation, but please use the chat room to provide your answers and or comments or any questions you have, and we'll again use the parking lot model where we'll put questions in that if we want to do some more research and get back to you, but welcome.
For those that have already joined, please let me know if you've had any challenges with opening any of the recordings, like the YouTube or the pre-recorded sessions. You can either email me or put it in the chat.
Well, again, welcome to those joining us. We'll get started in just another minute. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and get started? And we've got our panel again here. Nora, do you want to go ahead and launch us?
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our third session. We're hoping that you found the first and second very useful. I know we were a little rushed at the end of last session. It's going to be a little slower today, or better pace today, we hope. So today we're covering the management and leadership knowledge area, which is 26 questions, 13% of the exam, and the general business knowledge area with 18 questions, which is 9% of the test. Next slide, please. So just in case you don't remember who we are, so we're the Cal Member Advancement Committee, and we are very, very glad to be presenting this series, and we're doing this in conjunction with, next slide please, the San Diego Organization of Healthcare Leaders. So this is our first joint endeavor. So far, so good, I'm thinking. The feedback we've gotten from all of you so far has been pretty positive. And again, we'll be sending a Survey Monkey out at the end of the entire series. So, you know, if you be keeping track, notes of the different sessions and let us know how we're doing. Next slide. Okay, so we'd like to include just a little updates and any FAQs that come up that we need to address. And what I found interesting is any of you who are attending Congress, there are 3 fellow advancement information sessions live during this session, the series, beginning on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I have the times on here. I will be sending this presentation earlier than last time, but go ahead and take a note of those if you'd like to participate in any of those. And last week we had Jennifer Paoli give us her insight into how she studied and how she took the exam, and she passed. She sent us her picture, and we're going to be building our slide of fame For those of you that passed, please send us your pictures. We'd love to put you up here. Plus, we will be tagging you to also present your feedback and perspective to in future webinars because it's so valuable. Okay, next slide. Sherry, this is your area of expertise here. Oh,
Yeah.
you're on mute.
Thank you. The first thing you do is breathe and then take yourself off mute. And then relaxation is important. Jennifer mentioned that. She talked about taking that time between each question and or if she got to a question. Some of the larger content questions, it's always good to breathe. We've talked about the options as true as false, and we're going to ask you today too to kind of bring in some of what you've learned about evaluating the questions, as we fondly call it Rick's brain walk. Read and reread each question. We sort of pointed that out last time. Again, Jennifer shared that you have up to 6 hours, and most folks tend to take at least one break. And then you have the option to review questions. So these are valuable things that help everybody. So anything you want to put in the chat room that you remembered from Jennifer's presentation that might have helped you. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Okay, Michael.
Hi, good morning, everyone. In behalf of the California Association of Healthcare Leaders and Advancement Committee team and the San Diego Organization of Healthcare Leaders, I would like to welcome again everyone to this third webinar series of Board of Governors exam preparation. In today's webinar exam preparation, we will be tackling the two body of knowledge, which are the management and leadership and the business knowledge. So we will be tackling the management and leadership first. So under this umbrella, the management, which focuses on application of management principles and theories. And the leadership focuses on cultural, operational, and service leadership. The management and leadership constitutes 26 questions or 30% of the exam. So under this umbrella, the following are the area or the knowledge areas that are covered in the examination. So first is the knowledge of implementation planning. Example is the operational plan or management plan. So this is also known as the operational planning or execution. It is how you implement your plan as a leader. It is the work of operation and accomplished by setting goals, delegation and authority, accountability, measuring of results, and benchmarking. The next knowledge is the knowledge of contingency planning. Example for emergency response as defined in National Incident Management System. Anticipate the unknowns and responding to the constant change is important in this area. Planning for changing needs and different scenarios. You have always to remember the question, what to do if? With the pandemic right now, healthcare leaders' knowledge on contingency planning has been tested by leading through the crisis. There's a lot of lessons learned there that it might come up during the exam. Leaders became more innovative, resilient, and there's a high degree of collaboration, both internally and externally. That's the contingency planning. The knowledge of organizational systems, theory, and structuring. Example, span of control. How do you decide how many direct report that you will have or your director will have? The chain of command interrelationships of organizational units. This knowledge is also known as the matrix management, involving the clinical, ancillary, and support service lines. In this area, you have to consider that when changing system or implementing change, there are various subsystems that are affected during the change, including the physicians. So take note on that. The knowledge of management functions, example, planning, organizing, directing, controlling, and evaluating. So these knowledge areas will test your ability to apply these various functions in your job. These functions will work together, in the creation, execution, to realize the organizational goal. And the knowledge of leadership styles and how, in what situations they apply. Consider reading the history of leadership theories and leadership styles. The ability to distinguish and differentiate various styles and able to adapt to the changing situation. Consider asking yourself, what leadership style or tools do I use in everyday activity in your work? So it's really important to know those leadership styles. Next slide, please. Knowledge of techniques. Example, communication, use of practical assessment or training tools. So this knowledge is all about getting the right people together and motivating them together. So it is related to motivation, actually. So consider the reading about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or the Herzberg motivational theory, also known as the hygiene factors theory for employee engagement. So consider reading that. That will help you in your study. The knowledge of change management principles. How do you implement and manage organizational change and transformation? You have to consider also the application of appropriate strategies towards successful change management. The next knowledge is the organizational development resources. This will test your understanding on organizational development. Most of the human resources experts, they call this OD. We'd focus on improving your organization's capability through the alignment of strategy, with proper resources such as people and other tools that you're using in aligning or achieving organizational effectiveness, such as, rewards, metrics, and other management processes that you're using in your organization. The knowledge of collaborative techniques for engaging and working with physicians. This is important because physicians are very important in our hospital operations, in the decision making, especially if they are if their consensus is needed. So I still remember when I went to or attended the Board of Governors exam review face-to-face in Atlanta. One of the lecturer mentioned to us that, if you're having hard time selecting the right answer and in the choices there's a word physician, probably that's the best answer. So it's just, really physician is important in the healthcare operations. The next knowledge is the knowledge of diversity and inclusion principles and their influence on team and organizational effectiveness. I would highly recommend you to go to the ACHE website for diversity. So if you can go and read that and use that during your preparation for the exam. And the last knowledge for the management and leadership is the knowledge of resource allocation methods, example for addressing conflicts among departments or staff over scarce resources. Next slide, please. Okay, so I will turn you over now to Sherry and Rick for the question and answer portion.
So this is a good example of some of the things covered in the videos, and talks about the structure within healthcare. So we think about the governance model, we think about the medical staff, we think about management or administration. And so we're going to kind of ask you to think as well as you look at these questions and type into the chat room. I know we're just getting started. Drink another couple sips of coffee. And as we get into the chat room, start to select answers based on some of the things we talked about in the brain walk, either approaching it as true or false, or an every or all type question. So we have these purpose of management in healthcare, and think about the different structures in healthcare. Oversee appointment of competent medical staff to render care, appoint an effective governing board based on the wishes of the medical staff, implement the mission, strategies, and goals established by the governing board, or D, implement stakeholder wishes on the future direction the organization should take. Looks like we've got some C's. Anybody want to just type in why they picked C? Global and strategic, thank you. Broad, most comprehensive, thank you. Those were great comments. So let's have next slide. You did a great job finding a broad answer, global, strategic, most comprehensive. Thank you.
Okay, wow, perfect. I get a disaster question. So an effective disaster preparedness plan, being a planner that helps, includes triaging arriving injured, coordination with other resources, and, okay, so hours of operation, no, during the disaster, we don't think about that as much. Active command structure, yeah, for sure. Payment for hospital personnel, well, yeah, that is important, and it's going to happen eventually. And regulatory approval, yeah, it's going to be, again, part of it, but because you are going to get some of the waivers maybe. But I've got one I think is no, and I've got three maybes. And I'm going to say that the most important of them is going to be the command structure in terms of preparedness, because I think C and D are more things that will come after. So I'm going to go with B. And my answer is? And that would have been real embarrassing if I got that one wrong, since that's what I do.
3, committees are an important management tool, primarily because they provide a mechanism for reconciling different opinions and facilitating different decision-making. They're the only way for providing an intra-staff communication. They keep staff up to date on new professional developments. They ensure self-expression and participation by staff. And as we talked about some of the theories of management, you know, just going back into your learnings from what provides the best theory, communication will be stressed tremendously throughout the exam and throughout our learnings. So we've got some A's. And did anyone do a true false with this? If you did, which one looked like false? So we'll go with A, and next slide. Great job. And B, you're correct. B is false. The only way. And I think Rick shared with us one good thing is if it's only or every or that type of thing, be aware of those as red flags. Thank you.
It's always avoid never. Which of the following is an output related performance? So, okay, I'm going to look at performance measures, and I want one that's output related, not structure or process or input. Okay. So provider productivity, yeah, that's when we measure after. Board satisfaction, that's more of a process thing. A customer loyalty index, I don't even know what that is. And paid nursing hours, that's going to be input. So assuming that C is made up because I've never heard of it, I'm going to go with A as one that I know is output related and is a performance measure. If someone had C, go back there for a second. I was wondering, after, would you talk about why you put C maybe?
I was thinking globally that in any other industry, that would be a clear output related performance measure.
Yeah.
Good point.
Of course, then in healthcare, we get into a question that most industries don't have of who really is our customer. So, you know, I think possibly, but again, there's two there that could be, so you're going to at some point flip a coin on it, but you know, go with the one that is going to be the broadest for the most part and the most applicable here. So, yeah.
And this is Michael. Can I make a comment also on this? And one more thing is the output related performance measure are ratios, and the other selections are not ratios. So provider productivity is a ratio, is a type of a ratio. So something to consider.
Good point.
Great. Which of the following statements is in accordance with the principles of delegation? And again, Michael shared with us, and we'll ask you to look at some of those management principles. The executive who subscribes to the principle of delegation knows what he or she wants to accomplish and exercises control over the work schedule of subordinates. An executive explains how he or she wants things done and points out how the subordinate's contribution fits into the overall plan. A successful executive gives instructions telling subordinates exactly how and in what sequence things should be done. And D, in applying the principles of delegation, an executive makes relatively few decisions personally and frames orders in broad general terms. We pretty much unanimously have D so far. I think as we've all been in that management realm and delegation. So let's look at the next slide.
Okay, I absolutely hate this type of question. And you got to really read them carefully to get the right order. So the correct order for accomplishing change. Okay, so often you can find your false just in the first word, but not always. So identifying, yeah, you got to identify the problem, then plan, then implement, and then evaluate. Okay, that one looks good. B, planning before identifying. No, that's not going to work. Anything that's starting with evaluating can't possibly be right. And again, we've got on D, we've got evaluating too soon. So yeah, A is the only one that is logical to me. And is it? We get the next slide. Whoever's controlling the slides. There we go. Yep. So A is correct. And it looks like everyone in the chat room had A as well.
In the healthcare field, the accountability of management is best measured by balance maintained between service quality and operational efficiency, results shown on the annual expense and income statement, balance maintained between physician satisfaction and patient needs, and to degree which management's needs are met. And some of them are this interesting that you'll see. And as people are answering A, what is A like in some of the other things we've heard about in terms of how we manage all the competing priorities in healthcare? Well, we'll see it throughout the study materials, and you may see it in the exam, but it's the triple aim. And so as you look at that concept as well when you're studying for the exam. All right, next slide to see what we will have. Okay, great. Slide A, excuse me, answer A. Thank you.
And D could be a good distractor depending where you work, because sometimes it does seem that way.
Good point.
Okay, dispute between two staff positions. So what's the CEO's role? Okay, I'm not looking management generally, I'm focused on CEO. Ask a representative of the governing authority? No. Avoid any involvement. I've seen people do that, but not a good answer. Meet with the parties. Well, that's jumping in really fast for the CEO. Request the appropriate chief of service to investigate. I think that's closer to a CEO role because CEO should not be jumping in immediately. Should not be avoiding and should not be getting the governing board involved in the early stage. So D is the one that I think is most correct. And people in the chat room agreed it was D.
Research in behavioral science has consistently found that when basic needs are met, staff are most motivated by an incentive payment program, only by a significant increase in salary, by factors such as being kept informed, and when performance sets them apart from the group. And this is a good one to look at in terms of, there's two answers that are very similar, incentive payment program and increase in salary. So as you're looking at this, we've talked about the importance of communication, and our participants, and thank you, are answering as C. And so let's see what we've got here. C, exactly. And why did, before we move to the next one, why did C sound right to you? Anybody want to type in who selected C? Just a quick. Good. And this is a good point, as somebody put in the chat room, because nothing else seemed better. Yay.
Sherry, can I comment on this one?
Absolutely.
This is one where if you know motivation theory, Maslow and Hertzberg particularly, you know that payment is considered a lower level motivator. And so you can eliminate A and B pretty quickly. D goes against the idea of the informal organization and the fact that we go to work because we like people. Some people do that. So, you know, C is going to become the process of elimination, and it is the one that seems the most correct.
And we're getting some great responses and some real logical and some good strategic thinking in the chat room too, along those lines. Thank you.
Verbatim and Well-Managed Health Organization. That is a great book and good indication of why you want that book. Okay, cultural climate of the organization and recruiting. Those are my two areas here. So how does the culture affect recruiting? Okay. Reduces employee turnover and absenteeism. Well, a good culture would, but that's not recruiting. Seek applicants whose attitudes, values, and goals are consistent. Yeah, we tend to keep hiring ourselves over and over. So that might be right. Applicants who cannot support a given culture will be unwilling to work for the organization. A good applicant should be paying attention to the culture to see if they fit in, but I don't know how often that is effective. And applicants look only the organization. So again, we got that word only there. That's a red flag. So I'm between B and C. And I think B is the one that most fits what really happens. I think it's more on the organization side of how we hire versus how people come to work for us. So I'm going to go with B. And I see that in the chat room, someone else also had that same issue with B and C and went with C instead. So yeah, those two both could be correct, but B is the one I think is most correct. More consistently correct.
go with Michael.
Hello, I'm back. The umbrella on business knowledge. So this is a big section actually. The knowledge or elements or areas that we're studying here is like a mini MBA. So what a few areas to focus are on strategic functions, marketing functions, and how to conduct business in healthcare marketplace. So it constitutes 18 questions or 9% of the exam. So under this umbrella, the following are the knowledge areas that are covered in the examination, and they are very essential in healthcare business operations. So first knowledge is the strategic planning process. Example, scenario planning, forecasting, community needs assessment. This is on application on how to use known information to analyze and predict, like the use of managerial epidemiology and basic statistics such as inferential and descriptive statistics. Strategic planning related to the organization's mission and vision, and the knowledge of various approaches of strategic planning, such as, I could remember like environmental assessment, organizational direction, strategy formulation and implementation, etc. So the pathways of strategic planning is important to know during the before the examination. The knowledge of business planning process, including development, implementation, and assessment. This is particularly, like adding new services. So what are the important areas to consider when when you're expanding your product or service lines? So what are the components of business plans, such as, justification, SWOT analysis, and financial analysis, and the budget. So these are the areas that you have to probably consider. The knowledge of business contracts, such as what constitutes a contractual commitment, and legal and financial implications. So example, intentional damage to a person or business that causes harm. So remember that verbal, written, or implied is a form of contract. So ability to differentiate various contract components is important. Some contract legal terms, probably knowledge on those, such as tort, breach of contract, statute of limitation, and other contract terms. The next knowledge is the impact of socio-economic environment has on the organization functions. This is related to health disparity, actually. So there is a policy on access of care from the ACHA website, which I highly recommend everyone to go there and and read that. This knowledge will test your understanding on the impact of various factors such as educational level, language level, literacy level, cultural norms and cultural and other norms. Next slide, please. The knowledge of marketing principles and tools and how to interpret marketing data. Example, market analysis, market research, sales, advertising. In addition to this, review also your 4 Ps in marketing: the product, place, price, and promotion. Review your marketing components, segmentation, your strategy on how your market strategy, and the best way also to target your audiences. You have to review those ones too. The knowledge of principles of media relations, advertising, social media, and community relations. This is separate from marketing, so this is more on public relations and community relations. And the knowledge of the techniques involved in negotiating contracts or services. Example, compromise, persuasion, and relevant factors is for utilization, review, and models. Basically, know the relevant factors in your contract when you're reviewing it and when you are renegotiating it. So, and the last knowledge is the potential impacts and consequences of business decision-making and operations healthcare, human resources, and quality of care. Next slide, please. I'll turn you over again to Sherry and Rick, right, for the question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you. And so looking at business, we're going to look at physicians and physician relationships. And looking at a physician compensation arrangement, a carve-out can be described as, and we have some, I think some physicians in our group, so services that are rendered through a leveling of the PM, specific services that are admitted from a general arrangement and paid on a separate basis, reduced reimbursement for services considered unnecessary by primary care physicians, and specialists that are offered a discounted annual payment for certain services. It looks like we've got quite a few Bs, and that we'll go take a look at that. As we did our brain walk, there's some things that are more accurate than others, specifically B. Great, we got that one. Thank you.
Okay, when contracting for services, so I'm going to look at contracts, and then the organization finds best value. Okay, best is an extreme. So organization creates an internal auditor position. Not usually. Board member negotiates. Nope, let's keep the board out of this. Organization allows the prospective supplier to develop the expectations. No, never. Not for best value. And there's competition from several suppliers with proven performance and reputation. So competition usually gives me better value, and I've got reliable suppliers by reputation. So I don't like A, B, and C, and fortunately I do like D, so I'm going to go with that. As did people in the chat room.
This is a good question. When data is scarce, because that happens often in healthcare, the best method of forecasting is to use a computer-based simulation method, a time series analysis, econometric forecasting, or qualitative techniques. And I'm going to have Rick kind of take us through this, as well as how he's done a great job of doing brain walk, because this is a good one to brain walk. Please, Rick.
Okay, thanks a lot. So my thought is when data is scarce, the thing I want to do is the swag method, the simple wild ass guess. Okay. Okay, computer-based simulations, they're expensive and you do need some data. And so it would depend on the type of decision I'm making that I need the forecasting for. Time series analysis, well, that's going to take data. Econometrics is incredibly data-driven, like it's all data-driven. And qualitative techniques, well, okay, if I don't have the quantity or sufficient, then I probably have to look at something qualitative. So the first three are all going to take data.
You will need to know the difference between quantitative and qualitative. If we could have folks type into the chat room what their understanding of qualitative is, that would be great. Because you will see that.
I would go with D on this one because the other three all are data driven, particularly econometrics, but the other three as well. So yeah.
Great.
Now it didn't say data is not available, it just said scarce.
Correct.
So that required some interpretation from me of saying, okay, scarce means insufficient, that there wasn't enough of it to use, not that it didn't exist at all.
Thank you.
Okay, most products and services enter a period of decline. So we're talking about the product life cycle. Unless compelling reasons prevail, continuing a declining product or services is costly. Okay, so the first sentence really is just an introduction, doesn't tell me much. It's what I'm looking at is that second one. So why would we continue saying that's declining? Okay. Increased personnel, turnover of personnel will occur. You know, it's not a good reason to continue. Continuation will set an undesirable precedent. Well, wait a minute, we're continuing something because it would be undesirable. That's not right. Program will consume a disproportionate share. No, that's again not a reason. Organization, oh, you know, I don't like any of these. So let me go back again. I want to make sure I'm reading it right. Unless compelling, oh, is costly because I read it backwards. Okay. It's costly before. So yeah, okay, now I see. So again, I don't like A and B. D makes no sense in terms of immediate cost. So I'm going to go with C, the amount of time it's going to take. See, now I read that question wrong the first time and none of the answers made sense. So by going back and rereading it, then I finally could make sense of it. So the lesson again, RTFQ, read the question.
So this is a good point. When you see a lot of words, be more careful. So this is a perfect example. If someone like Rick can read it wrong the first time through, then beware.
But I mean, if none of the answers are making sense, maybe you're interpreting it wrong. That should be a hint to you.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's
go back
correct.
and look at it again if all four seem wrong.
Two good
so-
points.
Yeah.
If there isn't anything that at all sticks out for you, great point, Rick, and great point, Nora. Go back and reread and try and pick out some words. And I think the words that you could pick out were costly, declining, costly, as we all took the exam, we had to do that type of process. So great example. Before submitting a business plan for a new clinical service line to the governing board, and the governing board again is the board, the plan should be developed by recommendations from the finance committee on the basis of its estimate of income for the budget year. The heads of the profit centers, considering each center's anticipated revenues, expenses, with the CEO putting it all together. Key executives, after receiving recommendations from the heads of operating divisions and key physician leaders. And D, the heads of the operating divisions with the CEO putting it all together. And this is a new service, a new clinical service line, and the plan should be developed. And we have C. And tell us why you thought C.
Because Rick said, whenever you see the word physicians, it's the right answer.
I never said that. But it's a good thing to think about when you see the word governing body. Make sure even though we're not talking governance here, think about the role of the governing body. It's the ultimate decision making, ultimate responsibility. So if there's something else suggesting they have a different role, pull that out. I think C is right because the word key executives. So, finance is just one of the people giving input. Heads of the profit centers, well, which ones? How does that relate to this particular clinic? Not really. Heads of the operating divisions, again, who's that? So I think the key executives in getting the right input is what's important.
And I think, Rick, as you've always mentioned, there could be some answers that are plausible, but as people are kind of writing in their suggestions, is clinical services and physician buy-in have to go hand in hand? I mean, this is your personal experience or some of the things we've read about. And then C makes it the most inclusive question, and we've talked about our inclusive answer. Thank you.
A key concept for marketing. So again, that's telling me right now I need to know something about marketing. And I don't know a lot. I know the 4 Ps and not much past that. So I'm going to look for a key concept. Adapt services to the customer's needs. Well, that is marketing, right? Marketing is really figuring out what your product should be. Maximize customers' participation in the selling makes no sense to me. Advertise and promote, no, that's one of the 4 P's is promotion. But it's not figuring out what your product should be, it's trying to sell your current ones. And emphasize specialization could be one strategy, but it's not the only one. So just the definition of marketing, I'm going to go with A.
Seven, the principal reason a public relations professional should be included in the operations plan following a Sentinel event. Public relations would be able to determine the correct media coverage. Public relations would be able to proactively develop a crisis communication plan. Public relations would need to know in order to squelch rumors, and a PR professional does not need to be involved. So let's see what we got from our team here. Michael did a great job of explaining how important it is to have a relationship with media and all sorts of media. So, and why did B sound the best to you folks that are picking that? Have you type in a couple thought processes? Get it out in front of the issue. Great. Frame the issue. Good answer. Great. Okay. And next slide. Proactive. I think that's what people saw when they saw that answer. Thank you.
Healthcare facility can best meet its social and economic goals. So I'm bringing in a little bit of ethics here for social goals and balancing them, I think, but social and economic maybe. So developing a realistic and coordinated approach to long-range planning, yeah, probably, that sounds good. Devoting most of the efforts to development of operational practices, well, that's probably going to maximize our economic goals, but not our social goals necessarily. Having good public relations program, great idea, but that doesn't necessarily help us meet our goals. It might help sell it. And providing all reimbursable services, no, that again might be one, but will it be the other? So A seems to be the only one that covers both. I'm on a roll, and I'm thinking instead of going to Congress this week and trying to get 12 face-to-face units, I may just take the test over. Not.
Well, we'll take your picture, Rick, when you pass.
Thanks.
Yeah, right.
I do not want to take that test over.
So this is the end of the business sample questions, and we're doing really well on time, which means we can spend a lot of good quality time on the Quizlet demonstration for these knowledge areas. And that's been a hit in previous sessions and with the other series. So we're looking forward to that. Carol.
Good morning, everyone. So I'll be taking you through the Quizlet quizzes. There's 2 different ones, the business and then the management leadership one is a separate test. So we'll start on, since we just went over business questions, I'll start on the management leadership. So let me share my screen and get that up.
And again, the ACHE flashcards can be purchased directly through ACHE. Very helpful, and it comes with access, a digital access to Quizlet, which is good for a year once you activate the account.
And maybe we can point out here also, someone asked earlier in the chat room about renewing it if it's expired. And my recommendation was call ACHE's customer services line, but you may have to pay to renew it. I don't know, but yeah, I would ask them.
And again, thank you for that. And ACHE's, they're very supportive of getting people to pass this exam. So you never know. It's worth a try.
So I'll go ahead and read the question, and then Nick will look to the chat to see what the most common response will be, and then I'll add that in, and then at the end we can figure out how we did as a group. Okay, so here we are with the management leadership. An information filtering phenomenon that causes staff to hear only part of a message about change, the part that conforms to the status quo. To overcome this type of resistance, leaders should try selling ideas, offering additional information, leading by example, and providing opportunities for staff to upgrade their skills. So this would be considered benefits of team-based care, perceptive resistance to change, characteristics of organizational development, open book approach. What do you guys have to say?
Couple C's,
The chat. Okay.
another C.
All right, so we'll say C. Okay. The practice of ignoring cultural differences among employees is considered controlling. Cultural blindness, cultural diversity, or cultural competence.
Bravo.
B. Okay. A systemic national approach to incident management that improves the coordination and cooperation between public and private entities in managing threats and hazards to reduce the loss of life and property and to harm the environment. This is considered overcoming resistance to change, a national incident management system, personality assessment, or capital expenditures committee. This is a lot of words. Okay.
It's supposed to be like that.
Yeah, right?
Throw you off. So
Oh, what are we getting at here? I like Rick's brainwalk. What do we have?
looks like a couple Bravo answers, I think. Yeah.
That'd be my guess too. Okay. The length of time it will take for a project or capital expenditure to recover its costs through its revenues is line authority, payback period, communication skills, task-oriented leadership roles.
Looks like Bravo again.
Right, bravo.
Yeah.
The process of checking performance against standards may involve closed-loop feedback systems, performance metrics, benchmarking, and intangible standards. And this is directing, environmental assessment, controlling, or cultural blindness.
Okay. Dr. Cindy and Captain Campbell are always quick to answer, so thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Looks like Bravo again. It's like 3 in a row.
Okay. Formal authority granted by an organization to a supervisor and based on the supervisor's position on the organizational chart, also known as positional authority. This is payback period, third shift, centers of excellence, line authority.
Okay, Delta.
Thank you. Roles assumed by a leader to organize and influence the employees in a group to achieve specified objectives. Third shift, organizing, communication skills, or task-oriented leadership roles.
think we have a Charlie and a couple deltas.
Do we have more of one than the other?
Handful of delta.
Okay.
There we go. Now it's coming in.
Okay. A budgeting approach that ignores historical performance and requires management to substantiate each activity and budget item from scratch. This is functional authority, capital request form, zero-based budgeting, return on investment.
See if we can get one more. Looks like Charlie so far.
Okay. A hiring tool used by human resources departments to determine how job applicants will lead and perform. Examples include Myers-Briggs type indicator, emotional intelligence quotient, and 360-degree feedback. These are considered personality assessment, common cultural threads, capital request form, narrow span of control.
Alpha.
Amazing. All right. A tool used by self-directed teams to define duties, responsibilities, and authority. Implicit bias, capital request form, authority worksheet, functional authority.
I'm going with Dr. Cindy, Delta.
All right. Do we want to keep going? What do you guys think? Should we keep going on the true false?
We can, Carol, we can, and we thought since you're doing a great job and our timing is so good today, is that maybe we'll allow about 5-10 minutes at the end to do some HR questions. So keep going here and we have plenty of time.
Okay, great. Okay, so authority given to individuals with expertise in specialized areas and limited to particular situations. Emotional intelligence. Is this true or false?
False.
An area of managerial responsibility. Supervisors must use information to make decisions about where resources are effectively obtained and best utilized. Team interview.
Okay, everybody wants false again.
Okay, good. It's like, I'm thinking false. A characteristic of today's global workforce, leaders can guide staff comprised of many ethnic backgrounds by establishing support groups, connecting a new employee with someone who is from the same culture or who speaks the same language, and educating staff about different cultures. Is this cultural diversity?
True.
Do we have any choice either way?
Everybody's saying true.
Okay, thank you. All right, standards that are qualitative and subjective or based on perception. Examples include the HCAHPS surveys, health grade surveys, employee engagement surveys, and interviews. Is this cultural differences?
False.
Managerial function that must occur before organizing, staffing, influencing, and controlling, because it determines the framework in which these other management functions are carried out, is considered planning. True or false?
True.
A preference for things as they are, perhaps because the existing environment feels safer. Staff reactions to procedures or rules may include anxiety, inattention to work, or sabotage. Is this considered resistance to change? True or false?
This one's true again.
Targets that describe how goals will be achieved as measured by SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-limited criteria, are considered objectives. True or false?
True again.
The management of change and development within a business, also called transformational management, is change management. Is this true or false?
Let's go with true again.
Leadership roles have focused on employees in a group and satisfy the individual needs of the group's members is emotive leadership style, emotive leadership roles. True or false?
Dr. Cindy says false, so I'm going with that.
I like that better too. A way to energize staff by personally setting a good example. Leaders can model the behaviors they desire in their staff by themselves exhibiting a good work ethic, showing a positive attitude, talking and acting enthusiastically and optimistically, rising to new challenges, taking on work with energy and passion, and helping others recognize the importance of their work. Is this considered planning or false?
Answer is false.
All right, well, let's see how we did. Check our answers. Okay. Leadership role, emotive leadership. So we got that one wrong. So emotive leadership is something to study, I guess. Is that it? Oh, yeah. Or did they grade them separate? Oh, they grade them. Okay. Tool used by self-directed teams to define duties, responsibilities, and authority is authority worksheet. The process of checking performance against standards may involve closed loop feedback systems, performance metrics, benchmarks, intangible standards. That would be controlling. That's weird. An information filtering phenomenon that causes staff to hear only part of a message about change, the part that conforms to the status quo. To overcome this type of resistance, leaders should try selling ideas, offering additional information, leading by example, and providing opportunities for staff to upgrade their skills. Should be perceptive resistance to change. Okay. All right, and then we did the true false ones. So moving on to the business questions. Okay, assimilation of the vertical components of an organization through greater internal control and coordination. This is crisis communications plan, strategic management, a value chain, or vertical integration. Anyone?
Delta.
Certificate or approval for new services and for construction or renovation of hospitals or related facilities issued in many states. Is this scenario analysis, strategic planning, certificate of need, or collective bargaining?
Let's go with Charlie.
A model of a specific strategy or function that guides design, operations, and goal setting. Project charter, a business model, strategic management, or business plan.
We have one Delta. Huh? Alpha.
It's between those two for me too. Project charter. Strategy, function that guides design, operations, goal setting. A or D? Do we have more of one over the other?
One Delta.
Any alphas? No.
No.
Okay.
Tough one.
Innovation that creates a new market by discovering new categories of customers, eventually displacing the existing market, occurs when new technologies are harnessed or when new business models exploit old technologies. This is considered disruptive innovation, tortoise interference, collective bargaining, strategic positioning. I would kind of say A. Anybody say A? Any choices out there, Nick? Anybody?
Lots of A's, Carol.
All right. The internal activities and functions central to fulfilling an organization's mission strategically valuable. The internal activities and functions central to fulfilling an organization's missions strategically valuable. They are the essence of what makes the organization unique in providing value to its customers. This is strategic alliance, collective bargaining, core competencies, or scenario analysis.
Couple alphas, one Charlie, couple Charlies.
More of one over the other, or which?
Kind of split.
Kind of split, okay.
Yeah.
I'll stay with A. Obstacles that impede an organization as it seeks to enter a market. This is 5 forces model, product or service life cycle, barriers to entry, stakeholders. So obstacles that impede an organization.
Wait a minute. C. Here we go.
Let's see. A tool for understanding an organization's strategic situation examines both an organization's internal environment, which its strengths and weaknesses, and its external environment, its opportunities and threats.
B. Bravo.
Okay, good. A contracting party's failure or refusal to perform its obligations specified in a contract. Is this generic strategies, tortuous interference, switching costs, breach of contract?
D. Delta.
Strategic planning, budgeting, implementing strategy, and controlling problems and monitoring progress. These are 4 basic types of market structure, or strategic planning, or strategic opportunities, or strategic action cycle.
Let's go with D. Delta again.
Overseeing and directing daily activities in an organization to ensure they support achievement of the organization's mission and vision. Responsibilities may include designing organizational structures, policies and procedures, evaluating budgets and progress towards goals, and coordinating staff training. This is value chain, a project charter, strategic management, or vertical integration.
C. Charlie.
Persons who have a claim to or obtain some benefit from an organization. 5 forces model, stakeholders, product or service life cycle, barriers to entry.
Okay. B. Bravo.
A systemic process for envisioning a desired future and translating that vision into broadly defined goals or objectives and a sequence of steps to achieve them. Is this strategic positioning, portfolio analysis, strategic alliance, or strategic planning?
D. Delta.
I think I didn't put true false in this one, so it's all multiple choice. The underlying structure of an organization, the means to which an organization creates and delivers value to its customers and earns revenues. Is this a business model, core competencies, strategic positioning, or market structure?
Let's go A, alpha.
A method of identifying the distance between an organization's current position and its desired position with regard to its mission, vision, and value. Is this a gap analysis, Herfindahl-Hirschman index, scenario analysis, or SWOT analysis?
Let's go A, alpha.
The key internal processes or activities of an organization performs to create value for its stakeholders. A framework for analyzing an organization's strengths and weaknesses across the flow of product or service development and delivery. Is this value chain, the 5 forces model, crisis communication plan, or a bargaining unit?
Couple alphas, we'll go A again.
A group of employees recognized by the National Labor Relations Board to be an appropriate body for collective bargaining under the National Labor Relations Act. Is this a bargaining unit, barriers to entry, a value chain, or 5 forces model?
A, alpha.
Reductions in unit cost as a result of an increase in number of products or services produced. This is called switching costs, certificate of need, economies of scale, or horizontal expansion.
C, Charlie.
A long-term formal and mutually beneficial relationship between 2 or more parties to pursue a set of agreed-upon goals or to meet a critical business need while remaining independent organizations. Is this a portfolio analysis, a strategic alliance, strategic planning, or scenario analysis?
B, bravo.
I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone to go on mute. We're hearing some background noise and it interferes with the recording. Thank you.
Opportunities narrowed for use of plans involve quantum shift in service capabilities or market share, usually by interaction with competitors, large-scale capital investments, and revisions to several line activities. Is this healthcare disparities, strategic action cycle, a strategic alliance, or strategic opportunities?
Let's go B, bravo.
Intentional damage to someone else's contractual or business relationships with a third party causing economic harm is considered economies of scale, tortuous interference, strategic positioning, or collective bargaining.
B.
Okay. And let's see how we did. Drum roll. Where's our score? No, where'd our score go? Ow! Oh no. Okay. Did I lose it? I think I totally lost it. Oh shoot. Hold please. Hold please.
Carol, Nora's gonna do a couple HR questions, kind of revisit that topic, give us a little more time there since we moved through it quickly last week. Do you want her to go ahead and queue up HR and then we'll come back?
Yes, so we got a 90, but I can't find it.
Okay, well, yeah. Hey, congratulations, group. 90 is great.
Yeah,
You've passed.
we got an 80 and 90, so that's awesome. Good job, guys.
And
But-
what we could do too is we can send out, I think, or revisit it while you look for it, Carol. And then Nora, do you want to take over and do a couple HR questions?
Sure. Can everybody hear me? Am I off mute? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Is it working?
Not yet.
Huh. Okay. This is why I didn't do Quizlet last time. Let me try this again. I'm going to share my screen. Share this one. You know what? This is not the day for Quizlet. You know, oh, okay. How's that? Look better?
Looks great. Yay.
Okay.
You can see it.
I'm sorry, everybody can see this?
We can see it now. Yep.
We
Okay,
got it.
so I need somebody to be reading off the chat for me. So,
I could do that.
okay, so this is HR. So just because I'm sure all you've done all this past week was study HR. So hopefully this will be a good reminder for you. Refresher. Okay. First question. A process in which applicants are given a true picture of a job, including its strengths and weaknesses, through verbal information, discussions with job incumbents, employee shadowing, and other methods. Options: realistic job preview, retaliatory discharge, learning collaboratives, and forced distribution.
We have a lot of A's.
Making sense? Okay. Hold up. Okay. The concept that it is the employer's responsibility to make adjustments within reasonable limits for employees with physical or mental disabilities, reasonableness is determined on a case-to-case basis. Okay, is that training development, learning collaboratives, person organization fit, or reasonable accommodation?
We have reasonable accommodation.
Great. I think the word reasonableness in the answer may have helped.
Mhm.
Okay, next. Oh, good. Performance evaluations, a form of performance evaluation in which many individuals, such as supervisors, subordinates, other coworkers, customers, patients, provide a richer description of an employee's performance than may be obtained from a single rater. Also referred to as the 360-degree feedback or multi-rater assessment. Performance standards, retaliatory discharge, compensation strategy, or multi-source appraisal.
We have a lot of E's, multi-source appraisal.
Excellent. Getting more and more of those, aren't we? I remember when they first started. I'm dating myself, but. Okay. Question 4, information gathering methods used in employee selection, including application forms, criminal records checks, psychological tests, interviews, employment verification, drug screening, educational background, reference checks, verification of professional certifications, motor vehicle record checks, and credit history. Remember, be wary of a lot of words in there. Read it carefully. What have we got? Multi-source appraisal, selection tools, contingent workers, negligent hiring.
Everybody says
Selection tools?
yes.
Okay. Number 5, the theory that employees in an organization will be promoted to their highest level of competence and then be promoted to and remain at a level at which they are incompetent. Fair Labor Standards Act, Peter Principle, Family and Medical Leave Act, Civil Rights of 1991, Civil Rights Act, 1991.
We have B, Peter Principle.
So I remember this from last week's. Okay. All right, here we got some true false. Let me know how we're doing on time. If I should just do 3 of these, maybe?
It's
Please.
11:20.
Okay.
You're doing good, Nora, yeah.
Okay, so a type of retirement plan which employer provides a contribution to an account based on the employee's current salary earnings, and the employee can draw on their account after retirement with reduced tax liability. Part of the Fair Labor Standard is part of the Fair Labor Standards Act. True or false?
False.
Okay. A federal agency responsible for ending employment discrimination files lawsuits on behalf of alleged victims of discrimination in the workplace. Means hostile environment, sexual harassment. True or false?
We have false.
We're on a roll. Sexual harassment that interferes with the victim's work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive working environment that affects the victim's psychological well-being is considered a hostile environment, sexual harassment. True or false?
We have true.
And let's just do 2 more really quick. Intangible aspects of compensation, such as public recognition, praise from a supervisor, and feelings of accomplishment, recognition, or belonging to an organization, is related to contingent workers.
We have false.
Belief that one will not be rejected or humiliated in a particular setting or role. Also, atmosphere in which people feel free to express work-relevant thoughts and feelings. Psychological safety.
That's true.
All right, let's check our answers. Okay, check answers.
Yay!
Oh,
Job.
wow.
Hey,
You guys
You
are
got-
doing great.
Yeah, well, there we go. We got it all. And again, it's great. I know we're reading the questions in its entirety. We've really embraced the true false thing going. I like it. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Carol, did you want to be able to show, or we could do that next week, some of the answers for your Quizlets?
Well, it disappeared.
Okay, that's okay.
We got
As Nora-
90%.
I will work on finding it and then send
Okay.
it. I
Okay,
can copy it and then we can send it out with the other materials.
perfect. And we had a great recommendation in the chat room. If somebody wanted to take a moment to describe the 5 forces of a model framework.
Oh, yes, I saw that somebody wrote that in the chat.
The chance to take an opportunity to describe that. I'm going back through to look.
Was
it
that
Mark?
related to business?
Yes.
That was correct, yes.
Okay. Sorry, got nothing.
Okay.
Which means I need to study some more.
All right. Well, great job, everyone. We appreciate your participation. It makes it really valuable for you. It's valuable for those that are learning different concepts, and it's also valuable for us to hear. And we appreciate that. Next week, we probably will have a little opportunity for you to talk about any of your experience in Congress this next week. I believe a fair amount of you will be involved in that. So go ahead and get your feedback on that. We'll have 3 topics next week, so we will remind you that your topics will include the professional ethics, laws and regulations, and governance. So those are being brought to us by Rick. So we'll look forward to that. I think what I heard, and it was great when people responded back, Nora asked if you were doing okay with the links, and what I heard was yes. And is there anyone else that has any comment about either links or getting the materials? Any feedback for us? Much appreciated.
One of the things that we're doing now is distributing the Zoom links with every communication that goes out.
Hopefully that's helping. Well, I want to thank all of our panel today, and thank you to all of you that attended. And we look forward to seeing you next week and appreciate your participation. You're doing a great job.
Let me add something really quick. If anyone on here does attend any of the advancement information sessions in Congress this next week, please take notes, and I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to put them in an update, part of our update slides on anything important that you feel you heard there that we didn't, not that we tried to do an advancement information session, but if you hear something juicy that you think we should know, please let us know, because that's good, invaluable information. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. I hear someone is stoked. I can see chat now.
So Mark Campbell had put in the Porter's 5 forces analysis. So I don't know if we were doing any sending of the chat questions with other materials.
If I can get the chat thing, I can, the chat message,
I just
save
saved it.
messages.
Yeah.
I'll